Why use many words when you can do?
We can basically.
Yes, but that's how you do it.
Specific enough, I don't need to actually look at it, I say, as general policy. Basic function of everything. Lowest, everyone is the same. Because here is form of that's.
Bullets versus mines.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You want like college.
Yeah, that was fun.
It's not.
That was we didn't work that. Don't worry.
Yeah, that was like fun about it. That one.
Yeah, no, we did like
That's true.
There's a lot of
yeah. It was the last one, and so everyone gets best.
Economic demographic.
I didn't want to my friend is here. He said,
It's fair.
Everyone gets.
Yeah, usually our debates the ones in like the bigger numbers.
she said she's having a time today. She left by. Some of them are, but not like necessarily.
Oh, it's just you and Aylin.
Oh, right. Oh, right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But a lot of them, I didn't find out. A lot of them.
We advertise them a lot on Instagram.
Yeah. I'm like confused with that driver.
It's a big deal when we go to and it's here this year, so I'll be able to go. Like, I'll have to spend
Yeah, but it's like not.
That'll be fun.
It's like,
It's a weekend.
yeah, so Friday night, we were playing together.
My dad was so I go see him
Oh, you don't find out like results?
No, we got a conference the same day. Because there's like a whole ceremony.
Yes.
Sunday is always more fun.
Oh, we turned it off to make sure the live streams.
Yeah. Well, this stream's going, we're gonna get copyrighted.
Oh,
That's true.
that's awkward.
Put our podcast.
Oh, actually, it's almost 7 o'clock. Eric, we're gonna get started in just a minute. Talk amongst yourselves before we do. just to clarify for anybody, for anybody who is curious about what it is that you're going to see, don't worry. Based on the questions that I heard are being asked outside, you do not have to come up and sit on this panel and talk about anything. I promise you. Your audience members, certainly there's going to be a section where you can ask questions if you want to, but no one's by any means required to. We're just going to have a panel discussion up here with some very bright students who are going to be talking about the subject of social media, and we're going to be asking the question, do we think that social media is uniting us or dividing us? And if you are here from my class and you are here to get extra credit, all that I ask is that you prove to me that you learned something, so take some notes on what it is that you see. There is a submission box that's open on D2L. If you submit your response to it by Saturday night, then you should be all good. But again, yeah, no particular style or format required. I just want to make sure that you are paying attention and that you learn something from it. So yeah, nothing more complicated than that. Don't worry, I wouldn't tell you to come here and then on the spot all of a sudden make you participate in a panel that you didn't necessarily prepare for. So you're all good. So that's it. Why don't we get started? Hi everyone. I am Ted McLoof. I am the Executive Director of the UA Discourse Series. What we do at the Discourse Series is every month we try to hold a public panel on issues that are concerning most people in the world. This year, our umbrella topic for all of our panels has been the unknown future. And so what we're trying to do is look at how it is that the future of different issues is going to affect people. We have talked so far about AI, education. Tonight we're obviously going to be talking about social media and how it is that it affects us all and where it is that it's going as we move into the future. So we're going to be primarily focusing on 3 different ways that social media affects us. We're going to be looking at how it is that social media addresses the issue of culture and entertainment, how it is that it affects our mental health, and finally, how it is that affects how it is we talk to each other, so political discourse. While all 3 of our panelists have done particular research on each one of those areas, they're all completely willing and able to talk about all 3 of those things. At the end of this, we're going to have a QR code that you'll be able to scan and let us know whether you think that social media is uniting or dividing us. And also at the end, if you picked up a raffle ticket on your way in, then we will call out the raffle and you'll find out you won a free gift card to Illegal Beats. So that said, let's go ahead and get started. And if we just want to go down the panel and you want to introduce yourselves, let us know your name, your major, and whether initially you think that social media unites or divides us.
Hi, I'm Harrison Morgan. I'm a criminal justice major, and I believe it does both, but definitely more divides than unites us. But it definitely could go either way.
Okay, great.
Yeah, my name is Logan Braban. I'm a history, political science, and law major. I'll be talking about civil discourse, and I think social media divides us.
Hi everyone, I'm Abby Faber. I'm a global studies major, and I agree with Harrison. I think it does a little bit of both, but mostly divides us.
All right. I would imagine that that's not particularly, those aren't particularly unpopular opinions in this room. I think anybody who is a member of this generation who grew up with social media probably feels a little bit complicated about it. They probably all use it, but also all probably are a little bit skeptical of what kind of effect that it's having. So let's go ahead and get started. Since all 3 of you do feel like it might be dividing us, I'll just ask, I assume all 3 of you use social media in some form. So I'll just ask a very general question, which is, why? What is the draw if we do, I think collectively know that there are kind of divisive aspects to it? What is the draw anyway? Why do we keep on going back to it? Why not just delete every single account that we have?
Sure, I think I'll start off. I'll use Twitter sort of as my example. On Twitter specifically, there are just a lot of incentives to spread misinformation because it gets a lot of clicks, and those clicks generate a lot of revenue for the people publishing that kind of material.
But personally, do you feel like you, like when you go to Twitter, and I'm really glad we're calling it Twitter and not X. When you're going on Twitter, I mean, why do you keep on checking it? What is it that's addictive you?
I guess for me, like it's kind of my way of putting my finger on the pulse of like what people are talking about in a political realm, which is because that's my interest. So
okay, great.
I believe that like I use social media, like all of it, more just like for entertainment. Like I enjoy like just like even catching up like on either sports, just like what's going on in the world, like even just like to get laughter, like just for like humor and stuff.
So like primarily what platforms do you say that you use the most?
I would say I use like definitely Instagram and TikTok and like Twitter probably the most.
Okay.
Yeah, I use TikTok and Instagram the most, and there's a lot of cyberbullying on both platforms, specifically in like the mental health section. But now that TikTok has this new feature of putting photos in comment sections, I'm sure you're all aware of those. There's like a lot of memes that people use, and I think it kind of creates more of a comedic way to cyberbully, and it like draws people in, even though it's still mean.
All right, so I want to pick up on that cyberbullying thing, and I'm glad that you're pointing out that there are changes being made to some of these platforms. And I'm just curious, and I'll probably sort of age myself a little bit here, but I do feel like, I mean, I came of age right around the time that a lot of the social media was coming out, so I didn't grow up with it, but when we were in college, that's when Facebook came out, and Facebook we don't even use anymore. But I do feel like it was a much more joyful place when social media first came out. It was really just sort of fun. I mean, Facebook itself was only for college students in its first few years, and then we brought in a lot of other generations. So I'm interested to know, do any of you feel as though you like missed the boat on the fun version of social media, or is there a version of social media that actually is really quite joyful that I'm just missing out on because I'm nostalgic for another version of it? And I'd love to hear from you.
I believe that the cyberbullying and like, making fun of is the more viral stuff that does happen that
Okay.
probably gets more attention. But like I've seen very like wholesome like comment sections and stuff like that, and like people just interact with each other. But typically that's not gonna get views. Like people want to see like people arguing, someone getting made fun of. Like that's just the hard truth.
Okay.
So I believe that that just gets more like popularized than like the wholesome stuff you see on social
I definitely want to return to that in just a minute, but okay. Let's
Yeah, no, I largely agree. It kind of depends on the venue, but I'll say generally, I think for me, I probably caught the tail end of this sort of golden era you're referring to. Specifically like YouTube, like all the stuff I was watching was like wholesome, stuff I was interested in, didn't leave me with a sense of impending dread. So yeah, that's just kind of what I'll say.
Okay.
Yeah, I think when I was younger, in middle school, it was very fun. There was all those TikTok dances, and everything seemed very like chill. Nothing was very mean. But then, you know, as we got older, a lot of social comparisons started to happen, and body image issues online, especially in platforms like Instagram and TikTok. So.
Okay, so great. No, not great. Terrible at that actually. But I wanna pick up on what you said and kind of return back to Harrison's thing. Any students who are in my class certainly very well know the media theories of instant gratification and cultivation, the idea of how in control we are of what it is that we see and what we choose to see. So this idea of this like anger getting more clicks, right? I'm curious as to everyone's thoughts here on, is that something that we collectively as society, are we just sort of prone to wanting to see this kind of, the arguing, and therefore who own these companies are going, okay, I guess we'll just feed them more of that because that's what human nature wants? Or does human nature want that because they've seen it so much on social media? Like what is the drive for that?
I mean, I can't say which came first, but like, I think in a political sense, you know, the sort of hatred, it gives like-minded people a similar figure to direct their high emotions to, especially in times of, you know, whether it's economic downturn, poor social issues. It gives people to direct those heavy emotions towards.
Okay.
I believe that it's the algorithm's job, like, because their job is to make money, and their job is to just produce entertainment to keep you on there,
Okay.
and that is what they want. So I believe it's more like the user because they do want to see it. Like before social media, you see like all these guys like around her like in high school like will be like bullying and stuff, and I will be like watching like want to see a fight like stuff like that. I believe it's the same thing.
Okay.
They're just they just do it on a bigger scale now.
Yeah, I want to touch on that, and this kind of ties into your theories of media. There's a study that was done in The Guardian, wrote an article about it. Basically, the finding was that a week of political content can bring about a shift in views that previously would have taken 3 years. So I think not only is that the goal, but it's reinforcing itself.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's human nature to be drawn towards things that are shocking or big events, and I think it's the same with social media. And so, like Harrison was saying, I think the algorithms push those out there because people want to see it more, and it makes money.
It does make money, and I guess that's kind of the question is why it's making money. This is gonna make me sound like I'm looking at this stuff through rose-colored glasses. I remember when I was in undergrad, one of my professors, his final paper that we had to do, our final assignment was we had to write an essay about how we were going to like speak truth to power, how we were going to change the world. And I remember writing an entire essay where I was like, there's this new thing called Facebook, and you get to connect with all of these other people who you've never met from other sides of the world, and we can use this for good, and we're going to be able to all communicate, and we're going to be able to hold hands and solve all the world's problems. And man, that sounds awful now. I mean, I sound like I was such an idiot, but I do want to, I mean, going back to this question of united or divided, maybe I'll start with you, Logan, because you're talking about the political discourse. Obviously, there are communities that people can find that are where they find their political ideology. They're able to talk to people who have similar views as them, or are able to talk to people online who have different views from them. So, are we using social media in the right way when it comes to political discourse? Is there a way that we can find our way to a better way of doing that?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. My answer is probably just going to be, it depends, right? So, like, if you were coming into a political conversation online in good faith, then absolutely. But the unfortunate reality is that's not the case with many users. They're even, like, in light of, I know Twitter recently added an account feature you can view where accounts are located in, and the reality is that a lot of the political discussion going on in Twitter right now are through accounts that are not even in the US. So, I mean, I think there are absolutely good ways to go about it. We're just not really seeing that being displayed.
And Harrison, when you go on TikTok, I know you said that was one of the platforms that you see a lot. Do you often on your For You page, do you often see political content? Do you, like, is that something that just gets fed to you, or is that, I mean, how do you usually get it?
Yeah, I believe I do. Like, not an insane amount, but I definitely do. But to be fair, I believe most that I see on there usually ties with like my like political like ideas and stuff.
Okay.
I believe they are showing me things that I do want to see.
Do you feel like when you're on there and you're seeing the stuff that agrees with your political ideas, do you feel like that's where you get a lot of your news, or is that just sort of where you get just exposed to opinions and arguments?
There is definitely news,
Okay.
for sure, but I feel like it's more like opinions and just like more like opinions and stuff. But I feel like guys are going on like forever. Like, look at every like news station, each have a political side. Some people have been watching the news, have been choosing which side they want for years now.
But is social media exacerbating that? Like, is it making,
Oh, it's
or is it
definitely
dividing us
amplifying.
even more? Okay.
Yeah, I definitely amplifying it, I believe.
So then I'll plug back into Abby, your kind of specialty here. What is that doing to our mental health? The political discourse that we're seeing that maybe is unifying us, or maybe putting us into our bubbles, or maybe making us argue with each other too much. Does it make us feel more stressed? I mean, how is it affecting our mental health and our desire to go and vote or not vote?
Yeah, so increased use of social media definitely elevates levels of anxiety and depression, especially in younger people. But specifically political discourse, when you have those groups of people and they're slowly drifting more towards different sides, you start to see fewer people that are in the middle and fewer people that can relate to both sides. And so it creates not only division on social media, but then it translates to the outside world.
Do all three of you, do you feel as though your generation as a whole, politically, do you feel as though you see people who are more extremists? Are they kind of retreating to the right or the left, or are you seeing more people who are moderate in response to what it is that they're seeing, or are we seeing people who are more apolitical because they're like, I'm over this, I don't want to see anymore. This is really done.
I think I kind of see a mix, and I think the root cause of that is just a general dissatisfaction with the status quo.
Okay.
So whether or not a more extremist leader is in power, there's going to be a dissatisfaction with the way that person's handling things. If it's a moderate person, there's going to be dissatisfaction. So I think just regardless, people are just not happy with how the things are in life, and that translates to some of the discourse that you're seeing online.
Okay.
I believe like social media, I read a study, I don't have a source or anything, but I read a study how last election was like the lowest kind of votes like ever.
Yeah.
I do believe social media had like a big part of that, because they just like, they kind of just like keep like showing it out there, like showing how bad like everyone is and stuff. And I feel like that a lot of people are just like, what's the point, like who cares?
So people are just getting really frustrated and just
Yeah.
deciding.
And kind of just decide to give up and be like, this is not worth it.
Okay, that's interesting. I definitely want to get back into that in just a minute. Do you have anything else you want to add?
No, I just wanted to say that I think social media is just a more exciting part of reality. And so there's a lot of extreme takes on social media because it gets the most clicks and views.
Okay, I want to take a quick poll from the audience. Raise your hand if during this panel you either checked your social media on your phone or thought about checking your social media on your phone and then decided that you weren't able to. Okay, that's great. This is helpful. So let's talk a little bit about addiction. So what are we talking about when we're talking about addiction? I mean, why is it that we end up wanting to go on our phones as much as we do, and what is that? Is that part of the algorithm? Is that part of the way that we want to socialize with people? What do we think?
I think it depends on the person. For me personally, you know, it's sort of I want to maintain my connection to the world and what's going on out there. But for some people, it's absolutely like sometimes an escape from reality, so to speak.
Okay.
So yeah, I think it depends.
Yeah, addictive behavior is linked towards like poor emotional health. So, like I said, being on social media for elevated periods of time increases anxiety and depression in younger individuals, and so therefore can create a pattern of addiction. But I also think that because our lives are now kind of on our phones, if we're not constantly checking them, we're missing out.
Yeah, I believe that a lot of people are just like scared of missing out on things, and in general, and like now with social media, most people practically just like show their lives. Like, let's say for instance, like a party or something, you're not there, you can check your phone, you'll see all your friends like posting about it. Like you can see like practically like what is going on like at that time.
Yeah, I mean, FOMO obviously is a very big part of it, right? But, and I want to just point to the fact we have a lot of different kinds of social media drawn up here. And maybe we're talking about social media a little bit too broadly, and maybe we shouldn't be painting with too broad a brush. So I want to just ask this, are there some apps and platforms that are maybe healthier than others? I mean, something like Snapchat, for instance, I mean, what you're talking about. It's not necessarily, I mean, yes, you can see videos of people having fun, but you can also communicate with people, and you can say, like, let's make plans or whatever. So are there some apps that maybe are healthier for us to go on, where we can actually talk to people, and we're not just viewing people, we're actually interacting? What do we think?
Sorry, go ahead.
Look, it's like looking at each one of the
I'm trying to figure it out.
trying to figure out.
I don't know if you could say this social media, but I think by far like the most healthiest like out of them all is the simple like texting.
Okay.
Because that like distraction and everything, so it doesn't be like reaching out to like your friend or whatever.
Actual just communication.
It's actual just communication. I think there's nothing wrong with that at all.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would say kind of like when we imagine social media, I would say the lesser of the many evils for me would probably be YouTube.
Okay.
Because there's not as much reliance, although this isn't wholly true, there's as much of a reliance on short-form content. There's a much wider variety of things you can consume that are, shall we say, more intellectual at times.
Okay.
Yeah, I haven't found a social media that's 100% healthy yet, so, and I don't think that's ever going to be a possibility. But I do think that the more communications types of apps are a little bit healthier because they're just focused on connection.
Okay.
And I would agree with YouTube, more the educational content side, because I do think think that because we have like YouTube Shorts and stuff, we can still form addictions. And I know when I was a kid, I went down like rabbit holes of YouTube videos, especially during COVID. And I was definitely addicted to that. So.
I want to get into COVID in just a minute. Since we're talking about YouTube, I know, Harrison, you're talking about culture and entertainment. And I just want to hear all three of your ideas about culture and entertainment. Because again, this is an area where I think there's something to be said for the way that social media, YouTube, things like that can customize whatever it is that you want to watch. You can find niche entertainment that really matches whatever it is that you like. I know that you're really into the UFC and stuff like that. And you can find communities that share the kind of stuff that you want to watch. But also, I come from the days when we were all watching the same show at the same time. There's this sort of mass entertainment. And I'm wondering what social media has done to that. Has it sort of splintered us in a way where we can't collectively all be watching the same movie or the same TV show? We don't have those little water cooler shows anymore where we're all talking about them. Is that a good thing? Is it a bad thing? What do we think?
That's interesting. So it's kind of framing it like we're not divided in the sense of it's us versus them. We're divided in the fact that all of our individual unique interests are being sort of amplified, and there's hundreds of hours of content that we can go to.
Yeah. Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
I mean, it depends on what you're interested in, I
That's true.
suppose. But I will say, I'll focus on the good aspects because we've been harping on the bad.
Yeah.
It definitely allows for a lot of more expression of creativity and interest, and like, oh, I think this is fascinating. I'm gonna, like Abby said, the rabbit holes, like I want to learn more about this. And I think there are certainly worse things you can be doing.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that social media does offer people community and the ability to express themselves. And I know that there is a large presence of LGBTQ people on social media because there are people from all different places. Maybe they're from small towns that maybe don't align with who they are.
Or don't have that community.
Yeah,
in real
and
life.
so they go to find community on social media, and that goes for other groups that have been isolated in society.
For sure.
I definitely agree with that. I feel like it does definitely find a sense of community, but at the same time, it kind of divides a lot of the communities apart. But it definitely, for one example, like the gym and stuff, I think there's like huge now like YouTube and like TikTok and like Instagram, like all like a huge like, gym following. People are able to make that a job now, which I think is like awesome. They're making millions of dollars just doing what they love, like posting videos. Like I think that's like a great thing for everyone. But it definitely does like if you're not in that community, it's like hard because you're like not really like part of it. In my opinion.
Right. It's hard to break into it.
Yeah.
I also feel like some of these communities do overlap though, and so you might not see a lot of that divisiveness because people can have many interests, and so they may be a part of many communities that also overlap. So.
And so since we're talking a lot about community, take a shot every time we say the word community. I just want to talk about COVID very quickly, and then after we talk about this, I'll see if anybody from the audience has any questions for our panel. What was the experience like during COVID in terms of social media? Was social media a life raft? Was it this door, this window to the world that you weren't allowed to be part of because you were being quarantined, or did it make all of the things that were already bad worse because people were going down those rabbit holes? I mean, what was social media's effect on everybody, whether it is culture or political discourse or mental health during COVID?
It feels like such a fever dream that it's kind of hard for me to remember.
Yeah.
Which I think honestly kind of indicates that there wasn't much positive. You know, all of my sort of social interaction was through a screen, as opposed to kind of what we're doing here or just walking around to class. And that's, you know, no one really wants that, at least I think. So definitely, you know, kind of diminished our social skills, especially the generation that was growing up with it.
But was that social media's fault? I mean, social media was there as a sort of tool for. I mean, it existed to sort of help us. So I guess what I'm asking is, as opposed to like something like TV, where you could go and it's a passive experience, but you're watching, you know, the news, you're finding out what's going on with COVID, or whatever. Was there something about the engagement that social media offers that maybe allowed a supplement to the kind of engagement that you weren't necessarily getting in real life?
Yeah, sure. Because like I mean, you mentioned TV as an example. That's like a passive viewing experience, and you're limited by the amount of channels you have. But like social media, if you refresh every 30 seconds, there's something completely new on your feed or your For You page. So there's just a constant flow of new things like here, watch this, here, read this, that it helps to pass the time, but it definitely has a certain effect of overloading our senses.
Yeah. Sorry. I think something kind of unique about social media is that it has the ability to create culture in our generation. And so I think that we first saw a big shift of our culture on social media at the start of COVID, and I think we've moved away from that since then.
Okay.
That was kind of the point I was gonna get to. I believe that like we can normalize, like that's how we socialize, that's like kind of just how we live our lives like through COVID. And I think at the time social media was actually a great thing for there to keep everyone connected. Because like without that, like if that did happen like 20, 30 years ago, nope, there's gonna be people like they're not gonna get any contact with each other for months.
So it almost sounds like you guys are saying it went from being like a tool to a crutch, like that it ultimately stayed around, like our habits and our behaviors that we learned during COVID just kind of stuck with us for a little bit longer than it probably should have.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I think it was almost always a crutch. I mean, the fact that it was necessary doesn't necessarily mean it's a tool, because like, obviously the pandemic was bad. So I don't think that takes away from it being a crutch to supplement our like actual social engagement. It's just that was what was required at the time.
Okay. Let's turn to the audience. Who has a question for our panel? Yeah, great.
Yeah, so I think it was a couple months ago that like the Nepali government was overthrown and the revolution was coordinated literally using Discord.
Okay.
And my question related to that is kind of expanding on the grassroots mobilization point that do you see more of that view as people start trusting less and less traditional forms of media or organizing to use social media for that type of grassroots mobilization, or do you think that's more kind of a one-off event that's not as likely to be repeated elsewhere?
No, I think absolutely alternative media via social media is seeing an incredible rise. I mean, people like Joe Rogan would not have been relevant 5-6 years ago, whereas today, as social media is way more prevalent, that's like the top dude. If you get on his show, like you're guaranteed a lot of eyes on you, a lot of money. So no, I think absolutely alternative media is becoming the way to go.
I think social media has the ability to create a lot of change in our current society. I mean, that's why a lot of companies have taken to using social media for marketing and things like that, because they're trying to reach a larger audience or maybe a younger audience.
Yeah, I have to agree with them. I believe that the alternative media will just keep evolving, and they're gonna keep coming up with new alternative medias to keep it kind of like like you're saying, Discourse, but kind of keep it in like a smaller, like not as big of a popular scale. I think.
But is part of that the fault of legacy media that like it just got to a point where they were not really proving themselves to be all that trustworthy and were not necessarily giving the people what they wanted in terms of news and information and the community? I mean, is that, or were they doing their best and we just ended up kind of wanting something new?
I'll say kind of yes and no. Yes, there is some responsibility on the legacy media that maybe they weren't doing the best job at informing us, but some of the fault also lays on the viewers in that we don't want to just be informed, we want to be entertained as well. And that's something that alternative media can fill the gaps of.
And have a bit of bias as well.
Exactly.
We want to
Something that agrees with
confirmation
us.
bias.
Yep.
I think that legacy media is catered towards more of an older generation, and then social media is catered towards more of a younger generation.
Kind of in the opposite vein of that, how do we feel about like political control over media? You'll get people in power who want certain posts taken down or only want a certain image of themselves to be projected. You'll get certain influential figures making their own app. I, of course, am talking about the Jeremy Renner app, which no longer exists. But, how do we feel about like that as a form of control and how that plays into individuals?
Or buying apps that already
Or
exist.
buying
Yeah, that was what I was
Yeah.
going to go to. I honestly kind of see the opposite effect almost, specifically of Twitter and Elon Musk coming in and saying, we're going to get rid of 50% of our content moderation team, which is going to kind of be open warfare. And we've seen some of the effects of that. I was listening to a John Oliver segment about that today, there was this stabbing in the UK some months ago, and no one knew anything about who the perpetrator was, but some guy on social media said it was a Muslim refugee, and all of a sudden that was the narrative running forward for quite a while, and it came out to not be true.
I believe like with that, it does have problems like that. But at the end of the day, I don't think like anyone should have power over like what people post. It is like freedom of speech, and they should be allowed to post like what they want. And then you do like that is gonna be the backlash. But I feel like once you start really like restricting like what you can say and what you can't say, then it creates so much more problems.
It's definitely a difficult dynamic, because like, there should be some kind of consequence for misinformation, especially types that lead to harm. But like, no, I do generally agree that having fewer regulations, especially on speech, is the way to go.
Yeah, I agree with everything. I just think that when you have younger people having access to social media, like children, that regulations should be applied to certain apps.
Yeah, I have a question along those lines that I'm gonna get to in a second.
So sort of along those lines, where do the responsibilities lie on the corporations rather than the users?
Yeah, kind of what we were just talking about, sort of that moderation. You know, you kind of do have to let people say what they want to say, otherwise you're accused of bias, you're accused of restricting rights. However, once again, these companies do have some kind of obligation to prevent misinformation that leads to harm, that leads to you know, the law being broken. Like for that example of the UK, what ended up happening is this mosque got attacked because of the conspiracy theory that a Muslim had perpetrated that attack.
I believe like if they put moderation on like they could put like an age limit, something like that, on what content people could say, like that is one thing. I don't think that's a problem. But to tell people like what they can and can't post, I believe that should not be like allowed.
Yeah, I mean, I think all these social media apps, they're companies, so they want to make money, and obviously having more people on there and interacting with like sensationalism or like large events that are posted on social media is good for business, but I do think that it is the responsibility of them to limit misinformation.
I mean, should the government institute a ban on social media accounts for people who are 16 or under?
No, decriminalization.
I mean, we're seeing that happen. I mean, well, also getting outside of that. I mean, I don't know if this was around yet by the time that you guys had graduated from school, but we're seeing a lot of schools ban cell phones, cell phone use in schools, or trying to make sure that they're blocking IPs and people can't get on those things. Is that a good thing? Is it a bad thing? I know that a lot of people want to make sure they have their phones in the case of something like the school shooting. They want to be able to get in touch with their parents. What do you guys think of cell phone bans in schools?
I think from strictly a learning perspective, like setting aside like, the necessity of communication, I think that's a good thing, with the caveat that the schools provide some kind of technology like a laptop or something for learning purposes. Because if like a school doesn't have that kind of resources, then you're almost forced to allow phones in the classroom for the sake of Googling stuff.
Other questions from the audience? Yeah.
Okay, just wondering. Yeah, I guess kind of on the restricting point, that are we talking about restrictions being voluntarily done by the companies? Are we talking about restrictions being imposed by the government? That can you talk a little bit more about, and if it's imposed by the government, that kind of how are we drawing the line or preventing it from being abused?
I think repealing Section 230 is a fascinating idea, and that way it wouldn't strictly be the government forcing the companies to.
Logan, can you enlighten the audience for
Yes.
people who don't know what Section 230
So
is?
Section 230 is like a communications whatever thing. Basically, it prevented citizens from suing social media companies for something that was posted by a user. So I think if we repealed that, it wouldn't necessarily be the government forcing those companies to regulate. They would just have to by necessity, otherwise they're going to be sued. So I think that's a viable option to your question.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, I have one last question that I'm just going to throw to all three of you. Since our umbrella theme this year is the unknown future, the future of social media, do we feel as though we are able to kind of right this ship? Is there a way that we can, in the next few decades and the next generation, now that we unfortunately have kind of used Gen Z as guinea pigs for a lot of this stuff, are we finding out, okay, we should maybe change how it is that we do things? are things gonna get worse? Are things gonna get better? I mean, and who is gonna be in control of that? Is it the people? Is it the corporations? What does the future of social media look like?
So I believe we can make it get better. Will we? We won't. At the end of the
What does
day,
better look like though?
I'll say better, like they can make restrictions on like, not what people say like age limits and like just like they can kind of like demonetize like so like if you don't want to see like nasty thing like that, you don't really have to. Like stuff like that would be good. Are they gonna do that? Probably not. At the end of the day, it's all business.
Yeah.
They're making billions of dollars doing this. They're gonna continue to make billions of dollars doing this. And like making restrictions on like kids under 16, they're gonna lose out on billions of dollars a year. Not a single company is willing to do that.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a lawsuit moving forward right now that's actually about social media and kind of the addictiveness. I know TikTok is implicated, Google, I want to say, maybe some other companies. So, some possible ramifications of that. I think the best thing that we should reform is just like the structure of these apps, not necessarily the content. So, having an airtight algorithm that isn't really pushing these kind of harmful things, getting rid of infinite scroll functions. I mean, there's a lot of procedural and structural things we can do without touching the actual content that would definitely help with addiction.
Okay. And do you think we will do those things?
I mean, depending on how this current lawsuit's going, I know there's a lot of money on the table, so, I mean, these companies might be forced to, but it'll be interesting to see how that moves forward.
Okay.
Yeah, so I don't think we will do any of these things. I think we all love social media too much, the way it is. But I think that in an ideal society, there are a couple of things we can do, kind of like Logan was saying, platform design changes, but then also from a societal, social aspect, like implementing moderation practices as a society, and then maybe having some educational programs to reduce like the pressure and promote healthy use. But I think it would be kind of weird to have a class about social media in high school. But
Do you think it's primarily self-regulation and community guidelines that are going to do it, and not necessarily the government or corporations that are going to set that? I mean, I know that I'm on the sort of other end of it, where I see a lot of my friends who are now becoming parents, and they're like deeply concerned about all this stuff, and they have very, very young kids, and that'll. But I do think that they are thinking about the future. They're thinking about when their kids in 10 years are going to be teenagers. What are they going to do? What is the best way for them to be able to discipline their kids and to also like teach them the right ways of doing these things? And I don't think they have the answer yet, but the fact that that's even on their minds, I think is something that's really helpful.
I think there's a lot of responsibility to go around. There's responsibility for the parents to kind of educate their kids on how to properly use it. Like you mentioned, we were kind of the guinea pigs. Our generation was, so there's that. There's a responsibility on the users to use it in good faith, and responsibility on maybe even the schools to further that education, and then on the social media websites themselves to make sure that malicious content isn't being pushed to the wrong kind of people.
yeah, I think the good thing is that we know more about social media versus like ChatGPT or AI. That's kind of an unknown. So we know how social media affects people mentally through political discourse and community. And so we're able to now take that information and try to like actually apply it to do good or prevent some of those things.
And it's gonna take a lot of time because your 80-year-olds in the Senate, they have no idea how social media works. So it's gonna take a lot of time, and the healing process won't be just a couple of years.
I think back to that cringeworthy moment when who was it? Was it Warren Hatch? Somebody who was asking, like, "Are you going to get rid of Finsta?" And they were like, "That's not its own app." It's like then he had no idea what Finsta was.
Yeah, I believe a lot of it is on the parents though. If they teach them like how to properly use like all the apps and stuff, it will create like a better just overall like social media community like as a whole for better if they all teach them how to use in moderation. So I do believe having like parents on that is a big factor.
Yeah. I think we have time for one last question. Go for it.
Do you think that we should or even can reestablish the fairness doctrine, both for social media?
Remind me what that is.
So I'll remind the audience what it is. So the fairness doctrine was a law that was in place where essentially it was back for legacy media before social media was around, where if you had somebody on a program who was on the left, you had to have somebody who was gonna be on that same program for equal time on the right, and that way there was no one program.
Isn't
one
that still
entire
around?
channel.
Isn't there like a equal times clause? or
Well, equal time
something?
for candidates, but it's, you couldn't have something like MSNBC or Fox
I
News
see,
because
I see.
you had to make sure that you were always balancing that.
And your question is, can we, should we restate it?
If we even can, reinstate it.
Like on a social media level, I'd say we probably can't, because like, I guess I don't even know how you do that. Maybe the algorithms set it like, oh, 50% left, 50% right, whatever that might even look like. Should we? I mean, probably. That seems to be like the best option if, you know, each side has an equal voice, but the practicality, I have no idea.
I don't think it would be very useful. I think people want to see what they want to see. If they see a video they don't want to see, they can just go like that, and it's over. They can just skip through it. You're not going to watch it, so I just don't think it would be very useful.
Yeah, I think it would be difficult because social media is a different kind of media than like the news or TV, because it's the user is putting out content that everyone else can see. So it would be hard to monitor what each single individual posts and if it's equal to other people.
Yeah, as we said before, TV is a passive experience, where this is, you're actually engaging with it and you're making all those choices, right? All right, quick applause for our panelists. We could pause this on the QR code. We're gonna have everybody scan it. And I don't even know what it looks like because you made it, but
It's just
It's just
United
this
Archive.
so if you guys can scan that QR code, let us know whether you think that social media, after listening to all this, unites us or divides us. In the meantime, while you're doing that, a couple things. We also have a really big event coming up at the end of March. The Arizona Regions Cup, which is a statewide debate and speech tournament between ASU, NAU, and U of A. We are hosting it this year. It's going to be held in Eller because it's the nicest building that we have on campus, because that's where all the money is with the business majors. So come on out and support our competitors. We hope that we're going to win the trophy and keep it home. Keep it home because we won it last year too. So please come out for that. It's time for, do we have the raffle?
Yeah.
Great, come on up and announce the winner of the raffle.
Okay. Okay, so everyone just look at the number on your ticket. Drum roll. One 66061. Woo! Okay. And then drum roll. 166055. Woo!
Thank you both of you.
Wait, one more.
Oh yeah, wait,
Drum roll. 166071. Hey!
Awesome. Go get some food together, talk about social media. We are going to post the results of what it is that you thought of tonight's debate, divided, or united, on our social media, which is an incentive to follow us on our social media, on all of our socials. I know we just told you all the dangers of social media, but we are the one good platform that you definitely should follow. Please follow us on Instagram, on TikTok. The TikTok girls, where are you? Yeah. Don't be scared of them. They're going to chase you down on the street if they see you somewhere whenever they go and do their TikTok questions. And so follow us on TikTok, follow us on Instagram. It's where you can find out about our upcoming events. And again, come and support us. Thank you guys all for coming out. Again, if you're here for extra credit, the box is open. You can submit your response anytime between now and Saturday night at midnight. And we'll see you soon. I was going to email you to see.
Should we reinstate?
Fuck me in this.